My name is Dennis Johnson, and I'm the author of The Missing Link, Astronomy, the Key to the Past. In the book, I describe my discovery of some amazing astronomical facts that support the hypothesis that the Mayan calendar is the same as the fifth son of the Aztecs. This video is being created for the archaeological tour led by Dr. Edwin Barnhart, featuring archaeological sites of the North Peruvian coast in April 2023. Many in the group, including Dr. Barnhart, had expressed interest in that part of the book. As a result, Dr. Barnhart asked me to present this subject to the group. We had an interruption to the tour which prevented the presentation, and it was agreed that I would create a video on the subject instead. Most of this presentation will be a video of my MacBook screen with my commentary. Your feedback on the presentation would be appreciated, and please feel free to share this video. I'm sitting at my desk. This is where I'll be doing the narration for the rest of the presentation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentation. What you are seeing here is a facsimile of the Dresden Codex. This is the Kingsborough edition. It's a very beautiful book, document. But the reason for mentioning it is that we were discussing the Mayans and astronomy and calendars, and the Dresden Codex is one of the 4 surviving Mayan documents from the Spanish Inquisition, and it deals more than any of the others with astronomy and calendar and things of that sort. The most important heavenly body to the Mayans was the planet Venus, and in multiple inscriptions it is declared that its cycle is 584 days. And this is nominally true, but in long terms, the average length of the Venus cycle is 583.92 days rather than 584. And we know that the first appearance in the morning of the planet Venus after being obscured by the sun was very important to the Mayans. They used that event to augment most of their ceremonies that they performed. And so it was very important to predict the correct time that it would appear. And it is inferred from the Dresden Codex and other sources that the Mayans did have ways of correcting the 584 so that the right day would be selected for their ceremonies. In the Mayan literature, we know that there are 3 separate Mayan calendars that are generally accepted. We have the ceremonial calendar called the Tzolk'in, we have the Hab, and we have the long count, which is a running count of days elapsed since the calendar began. And there's yet another concept called the calendar round, and that refers to the period of time that it takes for the first 2 calendars to repeat their day names. It's approximately 52 years. In fact, it's 52 years of 365 days, and that is called a calendar round. And the reason this is relevant is that it becomes an issue with correlation of events dated both by the Mayans and the Spanish. And the name of the day is always given, but it's not known for certain which calendar round is referred to. And so this introduces another concept that is important to understand, and that is what is known as the Julian day number. The Julian day number was invented by Joseph Scaliger to allow the Gregorian calendar dates to be associated with documents which were dated by references to one of 3 cycles that were associated with the Julian calendar. And Scaliger found that the 3 cycles all had a beginning on January 1, 4700 13 before the Common Era, midnight of that day being day 0. And every day since that date is given a unique day number. And any day that occurred prior to that is given a negative number. This is called the calendar converter. And it's created by For My Lab. It's completely free to use. It works on every platform. And what this does is it allows you to look at the Gregorian calendar, Julian day number, Julian calendar, Hebrew calendar, Islamic calendar, Persian calendar, Mayan calendar, Indian calendar, French Revolution calendar, and to select any of the calendars where you input a date, calculate, and instantly all of the other calendars display the proper date. And this is very useful in what we're doing in this exercise today. So correlation of Mayan calendar with Julian calendar involves selecting a Julian day number which coincides with the beginning of the Mayan long count. And the day selected is called a correlation number. The one that is generally accepted is referred to as GMT, which stands for the last names of the 3 gentlemen who concluded that that was correct about the same time, and that's Mr. Goodman, Martinez, and Thompson. And that defines the Mayan calendar that supposedly ended on December 21st in the year 2012. Being naturally curious, I wondered, considering that the Mayans knew the lengths of the orbits of all of the visible planets, as well as detailed on the sun and moon, I wondered whether any of the then proposed correlation numbers for the Mayan calendar to the Julian day number actually began with anything astronomically significant, such as perhaps a conjunction of the sun and the moon and all of the planets. That would make sense, since the Mayans knew the relationship of the different orbits. So I had decided to investigate this question. And another tool that I have used for more than 30 years is a computer program for planetariums called SkyGlobe, S-K-Y-G-L-O-B-E. And like all planetariums, it uses Julian dates. And this particular program can display the sky from any location for any date between 30,000 before the Common Era to 30,000 of the Common Era. The methodology that I'm going to use is using the calendar converter program. I obtained the Julian dates for all of the then proposed Julian day numbers for the beginning of the Mayan long count. I then used the SkyGlobe planetarium program to view the sky from the perspective of Mexico City. And the GMT and all others, except for one, had nothing of note astronomically going on at the beginning of the Mayan calendar. The one exception was one produced by Franz Joseph Hochleitner. He came up with the correlation number 674265. I'll put that in here, the calendar converter 674265. We calculate, and that's January 14th, 2867 before the Common Era in the Julian calendar. So this is the SkyGlobe representation from the perspective of Mexico City, Saturday, January 1, 2867 before the Common Era. And if you'll recall, the Hochleitner date for the beginning of the calendar long count was January 14th Julian. So this was just under 2 weeks prior to that. This is what the sky would have looked like if it had not been obscured by the sun. So here we have, in a classical daisy chain conjunction, we have the sun, we have Venus, we have the moon, we have Saturn, we have Mercury, we have Uranus, we have Mars, and Jupiter. All of them in a line, exerting tremendous gravitational combined effect upon the Earth and objects that might be between us and them. So now we are viewing an article that appeared in New Scientist, April 3rd, 1993, shortly after Hochleitner announced his proposed Mayan calendar correlation date. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I want to show you here in the third paragraph. We read, Mayan hieroglyphics have proved particularly difficult to untangle. The Maya had a complex system of calendars, and parts of 3 calendars have been deciphered from some of the preserved manuscripts. Hochleitner has found a 4th calendar, which uses the system of hieroglyphics to represent dates and appears in all 4 manuscripts. The key to recognizing the new calendar was the discovery that a Chuan figure, the head of a rain god, represents a period of time, and that all dates are connected with some astronomical event, such as an eclipse or a particular position of planets or comets. The Chuan figure represents Katuns, periods of 20 years of 360 days, while dots and dashes represent days, months, and years. And days. Hochleitner has worked out how Mayan dates relate to the modern calendar and hence astronomical events. The Mayan timed their important ceremonies to tie in with such events, the most important of which was the appearance of Venus. On this day, they held religious festivals with human sacrifices. Perfect accuracy was demanded from the astronomers who predicted the dates. Hochleitner, to my knowledge, never explained how this 4th calendar worked, and I'm not really concerned with that. I tried to contact him through the years and was unsuccessful, and now he is deceased. And so I'm only looking at his work, not his method. And the work that we see is that the beginning date that he selected was very close to a massive conjunction of the sun and moon and all of the visible planets. Next, I wondered what astronomy might be going on at the end of the long count, given Hochleitner's correlation number. The Mayan long count end is designated 13.0.0.0.0 and represents the calculation 13 times 144,000 days, the total of the long count therefore equaling 1,872,000 days exactly. So we have Hochleitner's Julian day number for the beginning of the calendar, 674265, and to that we add the duration of the calendar, and we come up with a Julian day number for the end of the long count, which is 2,546,265. Using the calendar converter, that is April 18th, 2259 of the Common Era, or May 3rd, 2259, using the Gregorian calendar. This is what the sky will look like on March 22nd, 2259, and this is the spring equinox. You can see the sun is directly on the east when it's rising, and here we have another massive conjunction. We have the sun, we have the moon, you can't see it, but Mars is behind it, Venus, Jupiter, Uranus, and Mercury. Saturn is below the horizon, but very close as well. So this is a remarkable coincidence, or else it's not, that using Hochleitner's correlation day for the beginning of the Mayan calendar and therefore its end, both of these events are very closely preceded by a massive conjunction of the sun and moon and the visible planets. So the purpose of this presentation, as I previously mentioned, is to address the hypothesis that the Mayan calendar is the same as the Aztec fifth sun. And we know that the Aztecs considered that the present world is the fifth sun, and I wondered whether the Aztec fifth sun is the same as the Mayan calendar. And now that I had a precise, astronomically significant date for the beginning and ending of the Mayan calendar, based on the Hochleitner identification, I wondered whether the previous recorded links of the Aztec suns were also astronomically significant. What is displayed here is called Codex Vaticanus 3837. It's a document in the Vatican Library, created in Mexico. Its provenance is not known for sure, but it is a beautifully illustrated document and includes a section that has Spanish language notes in it. In its current form, it also has some Italian, and as I said, the provenance is not known. But I'm not really concerned with the provenance. What I'm concerned with is translation of some of the statements that are made from this document. To that end, I'm utilizing this book written by Adela Fernandez, who is now deceased, and it was called Pre-Hispanic Gods of Mexico. And the reason I'm referring to this book is that she cited the document that we just looked at, the Vatican 3837, and offered translations. And I'm relying on her translations. I'm not concerned about the provenance, just the end results. This is another artifact that comes from Mexico. This is referred to as the Sunstone of Axayacatl, and it also has been translated to represent the characteristics and duration of the first 4 Aztec suns or creations. So we continue by analyzing the Aztec 4th sun. And by definition, if the Mayan calendar is the same as the Aztec 5th sun, then the end of the 4th sun is the same date as the beginning of the 5th. And the Vatican Library document, translated by Fernandez, states 4th sun, Zant Lilik, duration 5,026 years. Men died of starvation after a deluge of blood and fire. Translation from the Sunstone of Axayacatl. The 4th sun is represented by the head of the water goddess Chalcuth Liku. Destruction came in the form of torrential rains and floods. The mountains disappeared and men were transformed into fish. So, taking Hochleitner's date for the beginning of the Mayan calendar, we'll accept it also for the end of the 4th Aztec sun. Given a duration of 5,026 years, we come up with the date 7893 before the Common Era as the year of the beginning of the 4th sun, assuming that Hochleitner is correct. And this is what the sky globe representation of the sky as viewed from Mexico City on Saturday, April 25th, 7892. So what I did is I went back to the sky globe, and starting with 7893, our projected date, I looked at every day from that perspective within a year of that date, and this is what I found April 25th of the year 7892. Remember, the projected date was 7893, but this is within a year of that. And here we have, again, another conjunction. We have the sun, we have the moon, we have Venus, we have Jupiter, we have Mars, we have Mercury, we have Saturn, all very close together in a position that they would have exerted combined extreme gravitational pull on objects between the Earth and themselves. Now, continuing with the Aztec third sun, the statement from the Vatican document, third sun, Tulukiyahulo, duration 4,081 years. Men, the descendants of the couple who were saved from the second sun, ate fruit called Zincacoa. This third sun was destroyed by fire. And the translation from the sunstone of Axayacatl, the symbol of the third sun is the head of rain and celestial fire. In this epoch, everything was destroyed by rain and fire from the sky and forming lava. All houses were burnt. Men were converted into birds to survive the catastrophe. So if we take it that the third sun ends 7892 with that conjunction, and we subtract from that 4,081 years, we come to a proposed beginning date for the third Aztec sun, 11,973 before the Common Era. And this is what Sky Globe shows during that year. Again, from Mexico City, I found that on September 19th, 11,973, the year proposed by the Vatican document. Here again we have the sun, we have the moon, we have Venus, we have Mercury, we have Saturn, we have Mars, and Jupiter is in the opposite horizon. So it's in opposition, but astronomically it is still in a straight line. And so it would exert tremendous gravitational pull on objects between the Earth and the heavenly bodies. So we proceed to the second Aztec sun. The statement from the Vatican Library document by Fernandez. Second sun, Ehecotl, duration 4,010 years. Those who lived then ate wild fruit known as Acatzentile. This sun was destroyed by Ehecotl, wind serpent, and men were turned into monkeys. One man and one woman standing on a rock were saved from destruction. And the translation from the sunstone of Axayacatl. The second sun is represented by the serpent head, Ehecotl, the god of air. During that period, the human race was destroyed by high winds and hurricanes, and men were converted into monkeys. Again, there's a similarity between the two. And so, taking the last conjunction that we noted, that was the beginning of the third sun, is also the end of the second sun, and subtracting the 4,010 years designated in this document from 11,973 before the Common Era, we come up with the year 15,983 before the Common Era as the beginning of the second Aztec sun. And this is the sky globe representation of the sky during that year, again from Mexico City. We've got on July 17th, 15,983. Before the Common Era. And so again, we have the Sun, we have Mars right behind it, we have Mercury, we have Saturn, we have Venus, we have the Moon, and Saturn is just below the horizon. So we have another conjunction specified by the exact number of years recorded in the document attributed to the Aztec priests. And all of these kinds of conjunctions are extraordinarily rare. They only occur every few thousand years. And we are here landing on conjunction after conjunction after conjunction by simply applying the duration of the Aztec suns to the previous conjunction. The Aztec first sun from the Vatican document. First sun, Matlachtli, Atl, duration, 4,008 years. Those who lived then ate water maize called Atsitzentli. In this age lived the giants. The first sun was destroyed by water in the sign Maklakti Al, 10 water. It was called Apakyokogutsili, flood, deluge, the art of sorcery of the permanent rain. Men were turned into fish. Some say that only one couple escaped, protected by an old tree living near the water. Others say that there were 7 couples who hid in the cave until the flood was over and the waters had gone down. They repopulated the earth and were worshipped as gods in their nations. Translation from the Sunstone, Hexayakatl. The first sun is represented by Osalantanuath, the jaguar god. During that sun lived giants that had been created by the gods, but were finally attacked and devoured by jaguars. So taking our year of the last conjunction, 15,983 before the Common Era, subtracting the 4,008 years indicated for the Aztec first sun, we come up with the year 19,991 before the Common Era for the beginning of the first sun. And this is what the sky looked like during that year. On the Julian date, June 20th, 19,991, the year predicted by the duration according to the Aztecs of the first sun. Again, we have the sun, we have the moon, we have Venus, we have Mars, we have Saturn, we have Mercury, and again Jupiter is just below the horizon here, but all in conjunction. It's absolutely amazing to me that not only can a date be found where the Mayan calendar begins and ends with such a conjunction, but extrapolating and adding the durations of the previous 4 Aztec years to that date, each one of them identifies a year when a similar conjunction occurred. That is the presentation of the facts as I have discovered them. Had no idea that they were there, but because of my curiosity and certain expertise, was able to find this, to me, remarkable fact that all of these periods of time were delineated by massive conjunctions of the sun, moon, and the visible planets. So here are some of my conclusions. Implications, it's probably for others to evaluate this, but these are my conclusions. Number 1, given that Hochleitner starts and ends with a conjunction, it seems to me to be a better fit than the GMT for situating the Mayan calendar. And rather than ending with nothing in 2012, it will end in 2259 with another massive conjunction of the sun and moon and visible planets. Number 2, considering the fact that starting with Hochleitner as the end of the fourth sun Each duration of previous suns also result in a major conjunction. The hypothesis that the Mayan calendar is the same as the Aztec fifth sun, to me, advances to a theory. Number 3, in some way, knowledge of the links of previous cultures who evidently knew the duration of each came to the Aztecs. And I speculate likely the Mayans knew these things as well, but documentation is lost. So either these dates had to be retrocalculated, which to me seems highly unlikely because catastrophic ends and demarcations between periods are recorded, or the knowledge was transmitted in some way. 4, if a destruction of Mexico occurred, it could also easily have affected South American ocean cultures to the west of the Andes. Number 5, this leads me to ask, is there a reason that Corral and its contemporaries all appeared already organized at that precise time? Perhaps a previous culture west of the Andes was wiped out without a trace, possibly a mega tsunami caused by an extraterrestrial impact. It seems to me that it is most likely that the Mayan calendar was designed based on the long count. And so in some way it was known about the conjunctions delineating the beginning and end of the long count. And to me, the Mayan calendar was constructed accordingly. And number 7, the Mayans evidently believed that the present age is the 4th, although as we've seen, the Aztecs described it as the 5th. So I speculate perhaps the Mayans descended from the survivors of the Aztec first sun during the Aztec second sun. And that concludes my presentation. Feel free to give your feedback and to share this with any colleagues that you think might be interested. Thank you for your attention.